I'm here today to announce the appointment of David Weiss as a special counsel. Mr. Weiss advised me that in his judgment, his investigation had reached a stage at which he should continue his work as a special counsel, and he asked to be so appointed.
Reaction pouring in as Attorney General Merrick Garland names David Weiss the special counsel in a Hunter Biden probe. House Republican leaders ripping the move as a, quote, whitewash and a cover-up. In just moments from now, our legal eagles, John Yoo, Andy McCarthy, and Tom Dupree will all debate it. Meanwhile, we're also hearing from Republican Congressman Pete Sessions on the House Oversight Committee on what this means for their investigation. Welcome, everyone. I'm Charles Payne in for Neil Cavuto, and this is your World First. We've got Fox team coverage with David Spunt at the Justice Department with the fallout from all of this, and Peter Doocy on how the White House is reacting to it. We begin with David.
Charles, the plea deal is off. The case in Delaware is off. Right now, it looks like Hunter Biden is heading toward trial, possibly in California or Washington, D.C., or even potentially both. I want to read a new court filing just posted on the public docket entered by the government within the last few hours. It says the parties have engaged in further plea negotiations but are at an impasse. The government now believes that the case will not resolve short of a trial. Remember, David Weiss, the person just named as special counsel, was the same prosecutor who just a month ago, not even a month ago, Charles, was in a courtroom with Hunter Biden and prepared to enter into a plea deal with him. Now it's possible he may put Hunter Biden behind bars if Hunter is so found guilty in a court of law. Attorney General Merrick Garland was under tremendous pressure to appoint a special counsel. Listen.
Today's announcement affords the prosecutors, agents, and analysts working on this matter the ability to proceed with their work expeditiously and to make decisions indisputably guided only by the facts and the law.
Charles, Weiss will have an expanded staff and even more power to independently operate as special counsel. No question his profile has risen. His investigation, though, may in fact delay the Republicans' investigation in Congress. Weiss was supposed to testify in late September or early October. A spokesman for Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan tells Fox News, "We expect the Department of Justice to fully cooperate with our investigation, including not interfering with the 11 transcribed interviews we have requested, and David Weiss upholding his commitment to testify," and we have not heard anything from the department indicating it is no longer willing to do so. However, Charles, it is unclear if David Weiss will testify, given now that he's special counsel. One thing we can tell you, it's likely all of this will now be delayed. Charles?
Thank you very much. Meanwhile, President Biden is set to depart the White House in about an hour from now, and that's where you'll find our Peter Doocy. Peter, do you expect the president to say anything about any of this?
Well, it's Friday in the summer, and so if the DOJ thinks that's a good time to be putting out this news, maybe they think it's a good time for the president to get on the record saying something so they don't necessarily have to do it next week and they can get on with their business. With that said, this is an administration that over the last 2.5 years has really tried hard not to comment on hypotheticals, but we did get them on the record talking about the special counsel as a hypothetical, so it's worth revisiting that now that it is a reality.
A lot of stories about Hunter Biden surfacing this week. So to ensure the independence of the investigation, would the president support the appointment of a special counsel?
Well, first, the president has never had a conversation with the Department of Justice about any investigations into any member of his family. He said that during the campaign, and he will continue to abide by that. So I'd point to the Department of Justice for any additional steps they would take. They would make those decisions independently.
But just because he does not direct the Department of Justice to prosecute somebody or not prosecute somebody does not mean that they don't know what he thinks about Hunter Biden's innocence, because I asked him about it and he answered as president-elect. Listen.
I'm confident.
Well, the Department of Justice apparently is not so sure. President Biden is set to leave about 55 minutes from now for a helicopter ride to his beach house. If he talks, we'll have it. Charles?
I know you will. Thank you very much. All right, folks, now let's bring in our legal eagles. John Yoo, Andy McCarthy, and Tom Dupree. And Andy, I actually heard you earlier on the network calling this whole thing a sham. We're going to get to you in a moment, but I want to start with John because you've been urging a need for a special counsel. Now that we have one, what are you saying?
Well, I'm glad that the Department of Justice finally made this choice. It almost comes 2 years too late because as we get more information from the Hill, it looks more and more like President Joe Biden is at least a witness, if not more, in an ongoing federal investigation. We also saw that that ongoing federal investigation means that that plea deal that many were complaining about with Hunter Biden is now down the tubes. Now, there's an upside and a downside for the Biden administration. The upside is now they can say any kinds of claims that there's a two-tier justice system. Well, now we've got a special counsel for Hunter Biden, too, and one for Donald Trump. They've got a response now to people who are making demands about politicized justice. They'll just shift that all over and say, well, look, it's all in the hands of a special counsel now. The downside for the Biden administration is that there's no way to clean this up fast like they were hoping with the Hunter plea deal. This is going to definitely go on drip, 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 information, motions, pleadings, on and on into the campaign next November.
Tom, before I go to you, just moments ago, Senator Lindsey Graham issued a statement. I'll just read part of it, saying that the plea deal arrangement by Mr. Weiss's team was the biggest sweetheart deal in the history of American legal system, and they allowed the same team to continue to investigate potential financial crimes involving Hunter Biden and others, doesn't pass the smell test. He said if the goal of the Attorney General Garland was to appoint Mr. Weiss as special counsel, that he's actually has failed to put this story to bed, then he's actually failed miserably. It's going to make things worse. What's your assessment of the timing of it and also, of course, the selection?
Well, the timing of it is suspect, to say the least. I mean, as John pointed out, this is an investigation that's been going on for literally years, an extraordinary amount of time. And so why, after all of this time, does Weiss finally become a special counsel? It's obvious. The reason why is because the plea deal just blew up. We've rarely seen a plea deal implode in such spectacular fashion as the one that did in this case. And for that, I think we need to thank the federal judge who kicked the tires on this deal. We need to thank the folks in Congress who kept the investigative spotlight on Hunter Biden's dealings. That's why we are where we are today. And look, if Merrick Garland had found some independent actor to come in and serve as special counsel, yes, that would have given the American people, I think, a big boost of confidence that this at long last would be an investigation that was conducted fairly and independently. I don't think that was in the cards. I don't think that's realistic. I think Merrick Garland was dragged into this kicking and screaming. But I do agree with John that this is going to stay in the news and it's going to play out over the course of 2024.
Andy, you used a four-letter word to describe it all.
I do. It's sham. And I agree with my colleagues. It would have been fine to bring in a credible special counsel at an early phase. But there's no real investigation here. And now they've picked the guy who's been killing the investigation to be the special counsel. And there's really only one reason that he's been picked. He's almost completed his mission, which is to destroy the case against Hunter Biden, because unlike any competent prosecutor, he hasn't indicted it. We're down the road 5 years, and he's letting counts go because he doesn't do the simple thing that any prosecutor would do, which is file charges, which is what stops the clock. So the end of his mission is, by being a special counsel, unlike other prosecutors, he gets to write a report at the end. So sometime next year, we'll get a report about how President Biden didn't have anything to do with the things that he couldn't charge Hunter Biden with because he let the statute of limitations run.
Yeah, and some are saying sometime next year, wink, wink, after the election. Meanwhile, IRS whistleblower Joseph Ziegler, he was asked in the Delaware U.S. About this Delaware U.S. Attorney David Weiss during testimony before Congress, and this is what he had to say then.
It appeared to me, based on what I experienced, that the U.S. Attorney in Delaware in our investigation was constantly hamstrung, limited, and marginalized by DOJ officials as well as other U.S. attorneys.
All right, hamstrung, limited, marginalized, and now, of course, he is the special counsel, Andy, to your point.
Yeah, he's the special counsel, abracadabra. He wasn't brought in from outside the government like the special counsel regulations say. He's the same guy who's been killing the case. and he's the guy who'll write the report in the end, Charles. That's what this is about, writing the report at the end.
You know, John, I mean, listen, we all become specialists in things. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm reading where special counsel shall be selected from outside the United States government. That's statute 600.3. A lot of people pointing to that and some of the more obvious aspects of this. How do they get away with this?
You may not be a lawyer, but you're reading the laws pretty well, I have to say. There's a clear provision in the regulations that say this special counsel must come from outside the government. Now, there's not any real way to enforce it, but I predict what will happen is this is what the House Republicans in their oversight hearings are going to ratchet up the pressure on, is demand that Weiss be replaced with someone who's truly independent. I think as Tom and Andy have both made clear, this doesn't really help the Biden administration that much if they're relying on the person who was giving that weak plea deal to Hunter to continue to be the special counsel. The best way to turn the page, the best way to start off clean and fresh and make sure that the American people really have faith and confidence in this investigation is to appoint somebody new. And I think that's something that the House can demand as it continues its own investigation.
Tom, to that point, the House, while they may demand that, also have to deal with the more than likely now Weiss being able to say, hey, I can't either come and speak to you, and if I do speak to you, I can't say anything. So, many are saying that's a strategic part of this. One of perhaps the main reason this decision was made to delay this or run out the clock until it was all a moot point legally.
Look, I have absolutely zero doubt that when it comes time for David Weiss to fulfill his commitment, and he said he would go testify before Congress, and he got express authorization from the Attorney General to do so, I have no doubt he's going to try to walk that back on the exact basis you identified, Charles. He is going to say, look, when I made that commitment, we thought this investigation was wrapping up. I thought I would be testifying about an investigation that was closed and that was in the books. Things are very different now. This is an active investigation. I don't feel comfortable discussing in public our active investigation, and so I'm going to ask for a rain check. So I suspect that in a month or whenever the time comes, he is going to push back, and we'll see what Congress does when he tries to walk back that commitment.
Andy, last word to you. What are we missing? Is there something else that the audience should understand about this right now?
It's just that there's no investigation. You know, just like there's no special counsel, you can't go abracadabra and make a guy who's had the case all along the special counsel. And if there was an investigation, Charles, you would never, no competent prosecutor who had an investigation into a bribery scheme worth millions of dollars where it looks like they're hiding where the money comes from and where it goes. If you had an investigation like that, you wouldn't in the middle of it give a plea deal to one of the main subjects of the investigation to 2 misdemeanor counts. I mean, it just wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
So there isn't any investigation, and there really isn't any special counsel, but we'll pretend.
Okay. Gentlemen, thank you very, very much. Great insight. Meanwhile, are congressional Republicans looking into the Biden family allegations now worried this appointment will slow down their progress? We're going to get reaction from House Oversight Committee member just next. Also, Republican presidential candidates have been saying that there's a two-tier justice system now with this special counsel appointment into Hunter Biden. What are they saying?
I don't trust it. I don't think the American people trust it. I don't think that the American people trust the Department of Justice or anything this is going to do.
I was born on the south side of Chicago. It's been a long road, but now I'm working for Schwab. I love to help people understand the world through their lens and invest accordingly. You can call us, Chris.
cap a very revealing week exclusively. Tonight, special edition of Hannity.
Emily wanted to create something special.
Disgraced crypto executive Sam Bankman-Fried now behind bars in New York. A judge just revoking his bail after charges of witness tampering. SBF was handcuffed and led away by U.S. Marshals. His multi-billion-dollar fraud trial now set for October 2nd. Back to the Hunter Biden special counsel. GOP presidential candidates have been calling this a two-tiered justice system. Now that the special counsel has been named, what are they saying? Well, we'll get a great chance to ask Senator Tim Scott. He's my guest tomorrow on Cavuto Live. But now let's go to Alexis McAdams, who's in Des Moines, Iowa, with the very latest from there.
Hi there. Yeah, we've been checking in with voters and also those presidential hopefuls, and reaction continues to pour in because this is the center of the political universe, and it's not just about the fried food and the fun, but also everything that's happening. Take a listen. Thanks for talking to us again. Just wondering, what is your take on the Attorney General appointing a special counsel in this Hunter Biden investigation?
Well, I think it's about time. Look, the American people deserve to know what Hunter Biden and the Biden family were up to, especially when Joe Biden was Vice President of the United States.
And you can hear there as well just some of that reaction pouring in, Charles. Locals telling us that State Fair is really the true heartbeat of the Midwest, right? It's not Washington, D.C. There's no suits and ties. There's lots of fun out here, and they're trying to connect one-on-one with these politicians. So we'll see how that all plays out here, and if anyone has any breakout moments, as Iowa is the first in the nation GOP caucus state, so it really matters. Today, Doug Burgum, Mike Pence, Francis Suarez, all talking one-on-one with Governor Kim Reynolds here on what they would do for Americans. Back out here live, somebody who's notable that's not talking to the Iowa governor would be former President Donald Trump. He says he's not going to sit down with her because he'd rather be one-on-one with those voters and get his message out to the people. We'll send it back to you.
Alexis, thank you very much. So will this appointment actually slow down the congressional investigation into the charges of Biden family corruption? I want to get right to Texas Republican and member of the House Oversight Committee, Pete Sessions. Representative Sessions, thanks for joining us. So again, in many ways now, the Democrats will be able to say, hey, a special counsel has been appointed. There's not a two-tier justice system, and we're eager to get to the bottom of it.
Well, they could claim that, except they can't point to the law and say that this is special counsel because they did not follow the guidelines. This goes back to, I'm sure before, but includes the Watergate, where President Nixon did not like the appointment of a, quote, special prosecutor and went through, and Archibald Cox was fired, and it caused a huge upheaval. That law was updated and changed. So there are any number of points that were brought up. I thought Andy McCabe did a good job of making sure that it was fully discussed with your participation. And that is this a delay tactic? Is this something that is meant to take someone that has already made a determination about the facts of the case? Is this a person that's already come to and offered a sweetheart deal in the court that they were in? Is this a person who is trying to get away from giving feedback to Congress? Because Congress does believe that Hunter Biden got his sweetheart deal. We don't know the amount of money that they had rushed to charge him with that he had not paid the IRS since this period of time. As you know, the Government Reform and Oversight Committee, through Chairman James Comer, we have established another at least $10 to $15 million that may not have been included in that original sweetheart deal. That is something that needs to be discussed. And if you have this new person, I'm not even going to call them special counsel because they did not qualify under the law. If you have that person that is making the next sweetheart deal without the American people being involved, even in the indictment phase,
right,
then they have made a mistake. And that's why we use the words that we do as Republicans.
There's no doubt that the pendulum had begun to swing in the court of public opinion. For a couple of years, this was much to do about nothing. It was, right-wing conspiracy stuff. And, of course, the sweetheart deal being rejected, obviously, that was huge. But also, when Greg Shapley and the second agent, Joe Ziegler, came, and by the way, registered Democrats, saying that in their testimony that the whole thing had been slow walking the investigative steps, that made this incendiary. It took this to an entirely different level. How does your committee regain this momentum? How do you, A, say, hey, this is breaking the law. This is not a special counsel according to the statute. And two, let's find let's keep this going, because if the whole thing is designed to shut you down, to shut the work down that your committee has been doing until perhaps after the election, or simply run out the clock, where legally at least it becomes a moot point, what can you do to make sure that doesn't happen?
Well, let me say this. The clock will not run out now because he, in fact, was indicted. And so that clock continues. But the relevance of our committee is jurisdictionally within the Constitution of the United States, and one which we will not back away from. Now, how do we handle this? The Attorney General may choose to continue to have this and press this person, Mr. Weiss, to be able to go further in this investigation.
Right.
But it cannot be called a special prosecutor. It cannot fit under the law, and he will not get away with that opportunity not to come provide specific, detailed information about the peace part. So
Sessions,
I would worry less about that.
Okay, well, I'm glad we're worried about all of it. But before I let you go, I've got less than 30 seconds. Your dad was a former FBI director. The DOJ and the whole justice system, quickly, your thoughts on what's happened, because for the last several years, the American public has lost a lot of faith. And we had so much faith in them in the past.
Well, it's obvious what happened to my father. He tangled with Janet Reno, with the Department of Justice, and she got tired of that wrangling back and forth. President Clinton fired my father. We know what it was about. It was about politics. It was about involving the Federal Bureau of Investigation into political worlds.
Yeah.
And every director has gotten it since then. And that is why they have fallen victim to the Attorney General and politicalization of the Bureau.
Yeah,
it's a shame.
It is really a shame. Thank you very much, and good luck with the work you're doing. Much more on this, obviously, throughout the rest of the show, but I want to go to Hawaii now, where at least 55 are dead in the wake of those catastrophic wildfires. And by now, you've seen my next guest video as fires started to descend on this popular downtown tourist spot. You're going to meet the business owner behind these images next.
I'm Sherry.
I'm John. I'm a pharmacist. As we were starting to age, it's like, well, how can we help our cognitive abilities? We saw Prevagen. I did read the clinical study and went ahead and gave it a try. I feel that Prevagen is helping me with overall clarity, and as a pharmacist, I've recommended it to not only just customers, but also to friends and family as a safe product to try.
Prevagen, at stores everywhere without a prescription.
There's never a dull moment for the Nelsons. Fifth-generation Montana ranchers. Since 1868, they've been herding cattle, reeling in trout, and exploring Paradise Valley from their backyard. Here's to another 150 years of adventure. There's a story in every piece of land. Run with us on a John Deere Gator XUV and start telling yours.
More shopping? You should watch your spending, honey. I'm saving with Liberty Mutual, Mom. They customize your car insurance so you only pay for what you need. Check it out. You could save $700 just by switching. Ooh. I'll look into that. Let me put a reminder on my phone. Save $700. Pick up Dad from airport. Oh, only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
She runs and plays like a puppy again.
His number twos are perfect. He's a brand new dog all in less than a year.
When people switch their dog's food from kibble to the farmer's dog, they often say that it feels like magic. But there's no magic involved. It's simply fresh meat and vegetables with all the nutrients dogs need, instead of dried pellets. Just food made for the health of dogs, delivered in packs portioned for your dog. It's amazing what real food can do.
If you're ready to update the style of your kitchen, skip a full remodel with all new cabinets. Enhance can make over your existing cabinets with a new color, new style, and new functionality. Enhance can install a new style of doors on your existing boxes and refinish everything to a new color, giving you a completely different style, as well as improving functionality with pull-out trash and other organizational accessories. Get a cabinet makeover in less time and for less money than traditional cabinet remodels. Enhance. Wood refinishing done right.
I will never again lose to my brother, decided Issa, because I've switched to consumer cellular, and now I get the same coverage he's got for half the cost. I'm the one who wins. Birds, when freedom calls, we're here to answer.
This isn't just freight. These aren't just shipments. They're promises. Promises of all shapes and sizes. Each with a time and a place they've been promised to be. A promise is everything to Old Dominion, because it means everything to you.
All right, you heard Attorney Andy McCarthy label this special counsel announcement into Hunter Biden a sham. We're going to get reaction from those leading congressional probes into Biden family corruption. We're back in 60 seconds.
Arthritis pain? We say not today. Tylenol 8-Hour Arthritis Pain has 2 layers of relief. The first is fast. The second is long-lasting. We give you your day back so you can give it everything. Tylenol, #1 doctor recommended for arthritis pain.
I'm a bear. I'm coming out of hibernation after the best nap of my life. And Papa is hungry. And while you're hitting the trail, I'm hitting your cooler. Oh, cheddar! I've got a hot dog bun! And your cut rate car insurance might not pay for all of this. So get Allstate and be better protected from mayhem. Like me. Roar!
Treadwell matches customers with the right tires. The same expert advice you get from people in the stores like me. I don't know, I guess I'm just feeling a little...
Oh, sorry, I was buying some tires using this Treadwell guide. So cool!
Get your best match in 1 minute or less with Treadwell.
The death toll rising to 55 from those massive wildfires in Maui, as new questions are being raised about why no warning sirens went off. We'll talk to one of the first eyewitnesses to capture the horror in Lahaina in just a moment. But first, let's get to William Lajeunesse in Maui, where the governor is warning that the death toll is likely to rise. William.
In Charles, the reason why is because the governor says that the victims found or located so far were actually found outside buildings. And I can tell you, having been to Lahaina, they're now inspecting some of those very tight old wooden structures, very dense areas of Lahaina. And there are multiple search teams now here in Maui that arrive from the mainland along with cadaver dogs that are going to go through the 1,700 structures the governor said the fire destroyed.
People are found in houses in a huddle, holding each other because the fire surrounded their homes before they could even get out. There was nowhere to go. And these are beautiful homes that are very old and they're made of wood. Those went up like a matchstick. Nobody had warning.
Now, some questions are being raised, Charles, about why officials did not sound the island's tsunami alert to warn residents when the winds, 60, 70 miles an hour, toppled power poles. We spoke to two survivors who escaped the wall of flames, one who watched the harbor and the boats inside destroyed from her sailboat, another jumped in the water as with 75 others as flames and smoke raced over their heads. After 8 hours stranded on a shallow reef, they were rescued.
So there was no real route to go north or south or towards the mountains. The only escape once the thing swooped in was to get in the water.
And we all made the decision to save ourselves. We were also worried about the smoke. The smoke was so black and so thick, we were worried about getting killed from the smoke.
Captain Linderman saw the fire basically engulf the town, forcing her and another captain to abandon ship.
She saw Fleetwood's, the restaurant, go up in flames and burn and be completely gone in 3 to 5 minutes, and that the library was completely engulfed, the park was on fire, and that she was really worried that the fuel dock might potentially explode.
And now, Charles, they've instituted a price freeze on goods and services here in Maui because there's been a run on certain products, actually to help out some of the survivors that volunteers have been buying up at places like Target. Also, we are told that the governor and the mayor are now going to allow people into Lahaina later today. Back to you.
William Lajeunesse in Maui, thank you very much. And again, that scene in Lahaina, it was horrific as the historic town was being engulfed in those flames. It was our next guest who shot the video you're looking at as those fires were closing in. This is what the town, by the way, looked like before the fires and what it looks like now. Business owner Alan Descartes joins us now. Alan, just talk to us about what was going through your mind as you shot this video. I mean, you're getting history, but it's horrific at the same time.
Yeah, I own 3 houses right in Lahaina town. And I've had a gallery in the middle of Front Street for 23 years. I had just evacuated my house because I found out from one of my tenants that another house a block away was already on fire. And then I decided the evacuation routes were bottled up, so I found a safe spot to put my truck, and then I figured I would go to my gallery because I thought Front Street wouldn't be on fire. This is the main commercial district. It is the economic heart of Maui, and it is a top priority for the fire department to make sure that this stands. And it's only a few blocks, and it's right by the water. So as I approached, all of a sudden the street exploded in flame. I never got to my building. The buildings that you see burning are about 3 buildings before my building. Mm-hmm. By the way, I just have to thank you guys. Both people that you just showed interviews with, Gary and Lydia, are friends of mine, and it's wonderful to see that they're safe. Gary actually worked right outside my gallery right at that same building that I was trying to get to. And when I saw the flames, that's when I realized how overwhelmed the fire department had to be, because there's 2 blocks that would have been their priority no matter what. Yeah, and I've tried to explain to people.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to say instead, they couldn't. I mean, it's so overwhelming. It was so fast and so ferocious that the before and after pictures, I hate to say it, but sort of remind me of photos I've seen in the past of Hiroshima before and after. We want to say thank you, and we're glad, the folks who have survived it have. We say prayers for those who have perished, and we're glad you got the video because the world will be able to see this, and maybe in the future it won't be as horrific. Thank you very much, Alan. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, folks, by the way, viewers would like to help those who have been impacted by the Hawaii wildfires. You can donate at redcross.org/FoxForward. Back to Washington, and does this special appointment of a special counsel into the president's son help or hurt him in his reelection? We're going to debate that. And say it ain't so, Joe. President Joe Biden now says he wishes he didn't mean or didn't want to call the spending package the Inflation Reduction Act. So what is this saying? What is he admitting? We'll be right back.
They're off from school.
but not really home. Images and videos. Social media, fine-tuned to suck them in and steal them away. Alone, you can't stop it. Together, we will. We have a plan. Join us.
Time flies when you're having fun. It's almost a year, 1 year of the anniversary of President Biden signing this so-called, quote, the Inflation Reduction Act into law. As it turns out, he's having some regrets on the name. To Grady Trimble at the White House with the latest. Grady.
Charles, I think it's safe to say the president doesn't have any regrets about what is in the Inflation Reduction Act, but he is expressing some regret over the name of one of his hallmark pieces of legislation. At a campaign fundraiser yesterday in Utah, here's what he said. I wish I hadn't called it that. It has less to do with inflation than it does providing alternatives to economic growth. But the administration has repeatedly said that the legislation is about inflation.
It reduces your cost of living. It reduces inflation in your paycheck.
We've talked for a long time now about the relief in the Inflation Reduction Act, and I think we've both agreed that it's very significant.
The Inflation Reduction Act does just that. Inflation Reduction Act actually helps lower cost, energy costs, and gives Americans a little breathing room.
The White House comms team later tried to clean up the president's remarks, saying they're missing key context. They say left out of the notes summarizing President Biden's comment was that he said the law is, quote, literally reducing the cost of people being able to meet their basic needs. Of course, Charles, Republicans have long argued that the Inflation Reduction Act did not do what its name says it does, but rather fueled inflation. Charles?
Grady, thank you very much. All right, let's get right to Steve Forbes, CEO of Forbes Media. Steve, so much to unpack here, but it feels like the messaging part, maybe they're trying to tweak it a little bit ahead of the elections. But in terms of it and creating inflation, is that a no-brainer?
Well, the spending has to be financed, and that hurts the economy. And it hurts the economy, so you have less production. Federal Reserve is under pressure to end up issuing more, buying more debt, as it eventually will have to do. So it damages the economy. And there's no part of that bill that withstands anything good about it. So don't call it the Inflation Reduction Act. Don't call it anything good but the Bad for the Economy Act. Reduces people's standard of living.
There's an interesting line that the president used, alternatives to economic growth. You know, this kind of recalls the notion that a lot of the things they have tried are under the guise of modern monetary theory, the notion that the government can just print up a bunch of money and throw it into the system and it will fix everything. Of course, in this case, it sparked 40-year high inflation, but it feels like they believe this to their core, that there are alternatives to real economic growth that have propelled America to the #1 nation in the world.
Well, what's happened is they're turning us into a European-style socialist economy where growth rates, if you get to 2%, they break out the champagne. Whereas historically, we've grown 3 1/3, 3.5%, 4%. And if we grow in the next 30 years at our historic rates, guess what happens, Charles? The crisis in the entitlements virtually goes away. The debt as a percentage of the national economy plunges. This is what we did after World War II when the debt was over 120% of GDP. We had a little bit of spending restraint over the years. We eventually got tax cuts. Guess what happened? It went from 121% down to 35%. Then we've been reversing it ever since. And we're getting a slower economy, fewer small business, real business creation. And that means slow growth in the future, or no growth in the future, right. Stagnation. And if they get their way in regulations, like a banning of automobiles with gasoline, we're going to go into a depression.
To that point, the last 48 hours, we've seen the producer price index, where producers have to pay a cost to make finished goods, and then, of course, consumer price inflation. And one thing that stands out clearly is that it's still very expensive to live in this country. About over close to $800 a month extra for the average family out there. How much longer can we endure that?
Well, I don't think the voters are going to endure it after next year. And even the president saying, well, the rate of inflation came down. It still means the cost of living is going up. And there's no way we're going to get the prices that we had 2.5 years ago without a severe downturn. And unfortunately, our friends at the Federal Reserve are probably going to do another round of interest rate raising, which is going to put even more pressure on the economy. Yeah. We're finally facing now the full consequences of that spending binge, the administration's regulation binge, their desire for higher taxes, not a good future, which is why I think we're going to see a huge reversal next year. People want to return to the America of great growth and great opportunity, not the European-style stagnation Biden is giving us.
Yeah, well, we learned one thing for sure, that free money isn't free. Steve, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Charles. Have a good weekend.
Back to the Hunter Biden special counsel and a new Capitol Hill tussle. Right, Chad?
That's right. Well, GOP members of Congress believe the appointment of David Weiss as special counsel is an effort to stonewall their investigations of Hunter Biden, even though they wanted a special counsel, just not Weiss. More on that coming up.
It's easy to think that all money managers are pretty much the same. But at Fisher Investments, we're clearly different.
Different how? You saw high commission investment products, right?
Nope. Fisher avoids them.
Well, you must earn commissions on trades.
Never at Fisher.
Okay, then you probably sneak in some hidden and layered fees.
No, we structure our fees so we do better when our clients do better. That might be why most of our clients come from other money managers.
Capitol Hill now. How are lawmakers reacting to the DOJ appointing a special counsel in a Hunter Biden probe? Fox News' Chad Pergram has been following it all. Chad.
Charles, good afternoon. GOP members are blasting the appointment of David Weiss as special counsel. They doubt he can lead an independent inquiry, especially after a judge nullified Hunter Biden's plea deal, which Weiss negotiated.
And you try to put out a political fire, you actually pour gasoline on it. Who in their right mind believes that changing the title of what you call Mr. Weiss solves all the problems associated with Mr. Weiss?
Republicans believe DOJ handcuffed Weiss in his investigation of Hunter Biden. It was thought that Weiss controlled the investigation. GOP members wanted a special counsel for Hunter Biden, just anyone besides Weiss.
Weiss is the single architect over that sweetheart plea agreement deal that the judge in Delaware threw out just a few weeks ago as saying it was awful and unfair. I am very fearful that appointing the special counsel is just an attempt to stonewall Congress's investigation of the Biden family.
With his new assignment, it's unclear if Weiss will appear before the House Judiciary Committee. Weiss remains U.S. Attorney for Delaware. Weiss told lawmakers he would speak to the committee chaired by Ohio's Jim Jordan in the fall. Weiss even gave the committee a set of 4 dates. Jordan's committee expects Weiss to testify. But previous special counsels like Robert Mueller and John Durham have only done so after their probes concluded. Democrats are guarding the president.
My Republican colleagues want to somehow connect Hunter Biden to somehow the president himself committing wrongdoing. Again, not a scintilla of evidence is being brought forward, either in the House or otherwise. And so this is going to be a big distraction.
House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer accused the DOJ of trying to block congressional investigations. This could enhance talk of impeachment for the president or Attorney General Merrick Garland. Charles?
Chad, thank you very much. The Hunter Biden investigation ramping up as the 2024 presidential race is heating up. The political fallout is coming up.
With Allegra, allergies don't hold us back.